Otafest listeners, welcome back to episode 199 of the Otafest podcast. I am joined by Nancy, Dio,
Yikes.
and Angelo.
And Jay.
And Jay.
Can't forget Jay.
And Jay.
And Donkey.
I forget Jay a lot. And we have another Otafest podcast for you. We don't have anything to announce, but we have lots to talk about today because
We do.
there's been things that we've been wanting to put in the podcast and we haven't. There's been a lot of things that are happening, some sad things. So I guess we could start quickly there because the voice of a generation has passed.
Kevin Conroy, the voice behind Batman in just about every single Batman animated series, has unfortunately passed on. And that's really sad. That's really unfortunate. I feel like Kevin Conroy is one of those voices that, like Jay said, that touched an entire generation.
Our generation, certainly.
If you are any fan of Batman, and to me, when I'm watching any kind of Batman media, whether it be the old Adam West TV show, or one of the newer, I can't remember his name, but the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, you think of the actor
Christian Bale. Yes.
Bale. You think of them as Batman.
Right.
Whereas when I remember Kevin Conroy's voice, I'm thinking that is
That's just
Batman.
Batman.
Yeah. It's not Kevin
For
Conroy's Batman. It's just Batman.
Batman. Yeah.
And like Kevin Conroy was not limited to just being like TV animated series Batman or like movies from the animated series. He was also the video games.
Yeah.
He was the full scope essentially of anything that wasn't live action. I'm sure he probably even has a couple of like cameos. I'm sure they might have put him in as, but like you there was always that consistency.
Exactly.
Like if you were watching Batman media and as enjoyable as some of the live action movies have been in the last like 10 years or so, there's something that is so nice about voice acting because you are the character behind, or you're the person behind the character. And Angelo is right. You don't have to think about like, oh, will this actor do well? Like in the newest Batman where there was like Robert Pattinson. I really like that movie, but a lot of people were like hinging on, will Robert Pattinson be the proper Batman? You didn't have to worry about that with the animated series. Also, the animated series was written really well. So
And it wasn't just the animated series. You also had the Justice League series. You had Batman Beyond, where he played old Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
There was so
Batman
many
Beyond,
different
dude.
iterations of Batman where Kevin Conroy was Batman. Like, he was the rock of the series. He was the center of it, always.
Yeah.
And not to take away any of his other credits, but there's something in your heart that is like, you associate it warmly with a core memory of being a nerd, essentially. And unfortunately, he has had to pass, as we all may have to do one day.
We definitely sat down and watched the animated series when we heard the news. And yeah, just it's exactly as I remember. Every cadence, every tone, I'm so sad.
It's very perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
God help the next person who wants to take on that.
That is
mantle.
one heck of a legend to live up to.
You've got big shoes to fill.
I was about to say, you got the world's biggest shoes. You better have massive feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make a silly segue away from that. Instead, I'm just going to say it. Elon Musk is going
Not
as
Batman.
fast as possible, fast as possible to squander his $44 billion purchase of Twitter.
So
And now everyone
much.
is like, oh my gosh, are we going back
it's
to
impressive.
Tumblr?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Ryan Reynolds is going to Tumblr.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, everyone's like, "Are we
It's
going
pretty
back
funny.
to Tumblr?" And I'm like, "Wait, we're going back. We're going back."
Some people never left.
Yeah,
That
some
is
people
true.
never left.
That is true. Some people never left,
Even
but
through the
indeed,
Yahoo acquisition and everything that went
indeed,
with that.
and the Great Purge.
Yes.
But
The Great Purge that left. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been quite the implosion. I
It
think,
has
okay,
been.
there's a lot to talk about there. I want to say maybe we should touch on all the bits, but I don't know how in depth we can go into because it could be the entire podcast.
exactly, it could take over
Let's
the entire
summarize
podcast
with
very
a summary
easily.
of all the things that Elon Musk has done since taking over as the owner. Let's see. How many people did
So
he
the
let go?
first thing he did, he let go, was it 3,700 people? It was something like 1/3 of Twitter's workforce he wanted to get rid of.
Imagine being a billionaire. Like don't get me wrong. I know that you have to, try to be
Profitable?
yes. But imagine being one of the richest people in the world, let alone maybe the richest, and letting go 3,700 people.
So in contrast, Facebook just let go, Meta just let go of 11,000 people. But 11,000 people was only an eighth of the company's entire repertoire portfolio of people. And then you
Only.
have a third of an entire company let go.
I will say that Twitter is not the same scale of profitability as Meta is, though.
No.
Like it's
Not
at all.
It's not even
Yeah.
close. But people, if you're on Twitter or like know enough about Twitter, Twitter has never really been profitable. Like they've never really
Not
figured
at all.
out what makes Twitter go in terms
Tick.
of making money,
Yeah.
and that can be tough. I get that. I just don't think that I don't think anyone thinks that it has been handled correctly with the new acquisition.
Oh no, not at all. Let's continue going through the rap sheet.
Yes.
So after firing 1/3 of the company, they then have to claw that back, being like, we fired too many people. We need you guys to come back. Apparently, we fired key people that we actually need to keep doing the changes that Mr. Musk wants to do.
Indeed.
Some of those people included people who were responsible for making sure the community didn't go down spirals of vitriol and horrible,
Indeed.
like, criminal type content. And those people were like the first to be let go.
Indeed. Additionally, many of the critical infrastructure engineers were let go.
People
and
couldn't
they
change
realized
their usernames for a
people
period.
exactly, like very basic features of the website started to decline. One other change that Mr. Musk pushed through was that he wanted to change how verification works and have it be a subscription-based service for it to be revenue generating, which on the surface sounds like it makes sense, but in execution it's had some
So-
really interesting and very terrible flaws.
It actually doesn't make sense even as a revenue generator.
It doesn't
There
at a
was
very surface
another
level.
podcast that I was listening in on where they did some napkin math. And based on the number of users who don't want the check mark, who might want the check mark, and given how many of them would likely actually pull the trigger on buying it, they estimated around $15 million in revenue per month with the Twitter blue check mark. Except $15 million is a lot of money, but against $44 billion,
It's nothing. It's
that's
a drop in the bucket.
literally nothing.
So on like at a glance, it sounds like something that makes sense. In reality, it doesn't. And it's also had some really funny consequences. One of them being that, of course, naturally, people started purchasing the check marks and started impersonating people, despite Elon Musk's directive of you cannot impersonate people because
But you
telling people not
can
to do-
be a parody account.
You can
as long
be
as
a
you put
parody.
parody in your description.
And that certainly won't backfire at all. And in the case of one particular
So
company, an insulin manufacturer, a parody account impersonating them said that insulin is now free, and the ensuing
Tanked their stock price.
it tanked their stock.
Their initial losses were $22 billion.
Yikes!
They somehow recouped some of it to only lose $16 billion.
Oh wow.
Funny
so
prank.
brands are escaping Twitter as fast as possible.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The people paying Twitter's bills, the people advertising on Twitter are bailing.
Yeah.
They're escaping.
I don't know if people really know how like advertising works in like a large corporate setting, but one of the things is that they do their advertising fundraising revenue drive kind of thing way ahead. It's not, hey, this is 2023. Okay, let's see who's interested in investing in us through sponsorship. No, it's like years-long
These are
deals that
big
are set
years-long
like, you know,
deals.
like, 3 years ahead of time, whatever it may be. With what's happened, Twitter basically got no major new sources of sponsorship revenue when they were trying to renew contracts or look for new contracts. People are like, if you're a large company, you're like, this is literally the plague for our brand. Do not
is.
go.
It is.
Do not pass go. Do not give them the monies.
Run. It is a
It
run.
is
Do not walk.
Pretty much the only time I can ever think, there are many times where, let's say, someone says something controversial and they start losing, out on brand deals and
Sponsorships
stuff
or
like
brand
that.
deals
But
and stuff.
But you've
Yeah.
never seen it at this scale.
Till now.
Where it's a mass exodus from
Yeah, I was
a
gonna say, like, I guess there is
platform.
one individual right now who's also seeing a mass exodus from their platform, but without getting into that, it's like an individual versus like an entire major social media platform is, again, like the scale is way, way, way beyond.
To put the scale in perspective, Twitter as a platform has become the de facto customer service for so many huge brands.
Yeah.
Imagine being like, "Oh, American Airlines has wronged me in such a way," and then some blue checkmarked account that says American Airlines goes into your DMs and is like, "Hey, we can figure that out, but to find out your account information, to find out your ticket information, I need those wacky 16 digits on the front of your mom's plastic card." It could be done.
And it will be done.
It
It's
probably
only a matter
has
of time.
already.
Sure. And I will say, like, it's tough to balance, like, should you stay on the platform? I know that each of us are on Twitter.
All got Twitter accounts.
I
Yeah,
have
we are.
thought about leaving it. I'm not going to lie. At the same time,
several times.
I'm also like, I don't know about anyone else, but I don't really follow a lot of accounts. I actually don't have a lot of corporate. I follow news accounts and I follow some
Friends.
very general interest and then friends. But like, I don't get into like the meme side of things. I don't get into the toxic political kind of things. I don't get into any of that. So mine's actually like, if you looked at it, you'd be like, this is really clean, and there's not a reason for me to leave other than the association. And I'm like, I don't know.
Or until the infrastructure literally collapses.
Also
yeah,
true.
waiting for that to happen.
I'll be there until it's dead.
One of my
because,
because
yeah.
just cause.
well,
One of my favorite
there's
stories.
things that I like there.
One of my favorite stories coming out of this, going back to the whole takeover portion, was at one point early on when Elon was trying to figure out who was important to keep in terms of like their devs. He did this thing where it's like we're gonna have a meeting in like half an hour or like something like that. We're gonna have a meeting in a few hours today with the devs. And he's like, in order for him to figure out who was important to the company at that time, he requested devs print out physically
Their
pages
code.
their code.
of their code.
Yeah.
Like that was going to be useful.
That sounded like something somebody would have said to me in the 90s. Like
In college.
Yeah.
that sounded
It sounds like a teacher marking my like comp sci 101 exam.
Yeah.
Well, no, this sounded like an Office Space joke.
Yeah, like
And then
it really does. Like
he was
it's
going
so
to have
amateur in the execution.
Tesla engineers analyze the lines of code, and he also wanted to fire the people who did the fewest lines of code.
Yes.
Pro tip for
As if
any
the
people
length-
out there: the best programmers in your company
Are the most efficient
produce
ones.
negative lines of code.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no one actually thinks about it that way. They're like, yeah, but you're not affecting change.
He was thinking of it like from a hacker man perspective, where it's like,
Yeah.
did they?
It's like
how many
the
words per
person
minute
who
can you go
generates
for?
a bunch of stuff is the one who's doing things. Yeah,
And the-
exactly.
and the-
and
Like,
the best
if you
part-
want to hinge my employment on how fast I can type, I got you. I'm your star player. But
Yeah.
man, none of what I'm typing in monkey type is any value. Come on.
And somebody
I
had
can
the
be
gall.
the monkey on the typewriter.
Somebody had the guts to actually tell him at some point during this request that that's not relevant to how good someone can, do
is
development
at writing
work.
code.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he told them to throw it away, even though like they were being obedient. And some people had printed out like 50 pages of code. And they were like,
God.
no, we don't need
In
that
the
anymore.
tiniest print.
When I read that, like as somebody who has a very super, like out of all four of us on the podcast, I have the least amount of coding knowledge because I did it way back in like when I was 13, seeing if I was interested, and I'm no longer interested. I was like,
Valid.
no, that doesn't make any sense at all. I was just sitting here like,
Why would someone
Why
waste
don't-
all those
yeah.
trees?
I was like,
Yeah.
why don't I have $44 billion to waste?
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
It is some wild, wild stuff. So
Yeah.
we are all sitting in the dumpster enjoying, we're all sitting in the pot enjoying the water slowly boiling. And by slowly, I mean quickly. Very
Yeah.
quickly boiling.
Because apparently
It is
he
a
made it
wonderful
a
hot
speed
tub.
run, any percent, to just implode as much as possible.
How to
very
blow up
Twitter
your
will
life
be the
savings.
next MySpace.
All right, just a quick aside on this. I think we'll probably wrap this topic up quickly here. But are you thinking of switching to anything else?
No.
Not at all.
I haven't been seriously considering it. I know a bunch of people have started up Mastodon servers, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's a rabbit hole I want to go down. If I get an invite, that'd be
Same.
cool, but I
Yeah.
don't really want to. It's the same argument as having cloud managed services. It's like I have Netflix, or I could rip all of my DVDs, put them on a server, and manage that server myself.
Right.
But then I have to put all the work into doing that, host an on-site server, like
Same.
that's the time,
Makes
the
sense.
age-old argument of do you want to manage this yourself? Do you want to do it yourself? Or do
Yeah,
you
you can
want
always
someone
argue-
to let
do
a
it?
service.
That
do
you could
it.
be like, oh, do I want to manage my own email server? Like, there's just so many things that you could say. Oh,
You
I
could
want
do
to,
it.
but,
I
it's the
could
same
do
for
it.
me. Where
I
like
could.
I'm telling you, like most of my feed is news and friends,
And so
Yeah,
you're comfy.
Same.
yeah, so it's
And-
like I don't need to move. It's the association, but that's not really my fault that a billionaire decided to implode his own company.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a plan to move per se. Like at the very least, I want to watch the infrastructure collapse, like from a technical perspective.
First-hand perspective.
Yeah, it's
There's
'cause,
much
like,
learning to
that's-
be had.
There's much learning to be had there, so I want to be there for that. But I am interested in checking out some of the other social media services that I've long ignored because, I don't want to add more social media to my life. I feel like I already have
Oh,
way
yeah.
too
I'm like,
much.
I have enough. I have just enough.
But
and I don't.
I am curious about Mastodon. I am vaguely curious. I know the amino apps have kind of just still been sort of like quietly trudging along in the background.
I have not heard of Amino since they were sponsoring YouTubers to just talk about them.
Yeah, they're still
Like
they're-
5 years
they're,
ago.
They're quietly trudging along in the background. If it was what I'll say is if it's between reactivating my long deleted Tumblr account or trying out amino apps, I would rather try out amino apps. But that being
Interesting.
said, I'm not going back to Tumblr. You cannot take me there alive. I will not go.
I swear there
I'm
was some
holding you
kind
this
of
to
like
this. There's recorded evidence now.
Indeed.
One day we'll sit around and we'll listen to Big Sis Dio tell the story of when she was there. She was there when Twitter imploded. The last
was
server
there.
of Twitter got turned off, and then we were left with dead
I
apps.
was there when the last tube was
I
broken.
was there when MySpace died. I was there when Google Plus died.
That's the best.
I was
I
there.
was there when
Speaking of
Facebook
MySpace.
died. I was there when Twitter died.
Speaking of MySpace, just like Tom from MySpace is just sitting back going like, I don't want any of this. I'm glad I got out. Smart
He's like,
mans.
I remember. He's like, I remember this.
Did
Tom,
you know?
MySpace Tom is the smartest
Social media.
social media CEO
Yeah.
Ever.
Absolutely.
ever.
Did you
He
know
didn't
that
try to make
He
it
GeoCities
sold
is
it and
still
got
around?
out.
He said, I got my bag. I'm leaving. You cannot drag me back into this hellhole alive. I won't go. You can't even bring me into it dead. I'm gone. Bye.
I would say the same things about Jack Dorsey, but no, Tom was my friend.
That's true. That's true.
Sorry, Nancy. What were you saying?
Did you know GeoCities is still alive?
Oh yes, I did. I
It
do
is.
know this, but I mean that's just a hosting service,
And
right?
okay, you can't see it, but Angelo's face just now.
Yeah.
Wait, did it die and then come back? Because I specifically
Yes.
remember GeoCities dying.
It
Yes.
did die,
It-
and now it's
Yes.
All right,
Still
it doesn't
there.
count.
It was revived.
back.
That's like saying
Yeah.
Angel Fire still exists.
God, don't say that. It hurts.
Tripod.
No.
I remember Tripod.
It hurts.
Tripod was my first
Oh,
website.
I want that back so bad.
Oh God.
All right.
Speaking
Alright.
of things that are old,
And we want
forgotten,
back.
being thrown away.
But someone who is also actually successful at what they
Oh,
wanted to
okay.
do. That's the flip side, Angelo. Ash Ketchum is literally the Pokemon champion. I don't watch the Pokemons anymore. It's been a long time.
It
But I
has
have
been
been
a very
scouring
long
the
time
internet
for
for
me.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet information because I've been, the game's coming out soon. And as a result, I saw some like anime information. This is not like, this is very new, but this is not like a leak or some kind of info to that. So, but recently, the Pokemon Company, running the anime side, they ran like a series of basically like the Champion of Champions tournament. All the big players were there that were like all considered to be like the top level trainers, including like the previous top level trainer champion guy. I think his name is Leon. And then there's like Cynthia and like Steven and Lance, like all those big Pokemon champions.
All of the Elite Four.
Not just like the Elite Four, but like the champions of the Elite Fours, of their respective Elite Fours. And Ash beat them all in this Tournament of Champions, and he is currently at the very top. He is number one. He is the very best.
Like no one ever was.
you.
Exactly. And they might be, and there's rumors now that they might be retiring him from being the main pro tag. So this is we're getting like
You know,
we're sort of getting like the reverse Kevin Conroy, where they're like, you've done your thing, now go away. Or I don't
It's
want to play
fair.
with you
Be
anymore.
free, Ash.
it's fair.
He can
Ash
he can
has
turn 11.
literally been. He's literally been trying to be the Pokemon champion for over 20 years.
And he's won twice technically.
That is true, he has.
Because I think we talked about it that he became a main
Pokemon champion before.
Yeah, he became a main Elite Four champion, maybe like a year and a half ago or so, and then before that he was sort of like a side Elite Four champion where it wasn't like in the games, so people kind of didn't really consider him being a champion. But now he is the boy on top.
Do you guys remember the Pokemon? I think it was like Pokemon Memories, or Pokemon Red Memories, OVA, like
mean
4 or
Origins?
5 Origins. That was like 4 or 5 years back, where it followed Red from Pokemon Red as
Yes.
opposed to Ash.
Yes.
I loved that.
That was really good.
I
it
feel
was
like
a
they could
different
do
take.
more of that. They could follow the trainers of the given game.
True. It's going to be interesting because, like, right now, this is a rumor that they're going to retire him, but there's, like, clues that people are, like, looking into where the episode title sort of really alludes to, like, the very first episode, and there's a lot of speculation about it. I kind of get it. Like I said, I don't watch the anime. I haven't watched the anime since the original series, but, you know, like, for someone who otherwise doesn't really have a place in the video games, and the video games are the number one thing, it's hard to justify Ash needing to be the center protagonist. It's like you don't follow him. Doesn't do anything else other than be in the anime at this point.
As much as I love Ash, as much as I wanted to be Ash when I was like 10 years old,
For sure.
as much as I wanted to
Who
take my
didn't?
baseball hat and spin it around and then be badass like he was,
Exactly.
the reality is at this point, it's probably a lot like writing for The Simpsons, where they feel pigeonholed by what the character is, that it's hard to explore the character any further. And the only way to add more to the story is by having new side characters who
Yes.
end
Become
up
main
being
characters,
more
for sure.
interesting than Ash. The only thing that I can say is that for an entire generation, for the Gen 1ers, Pikachu is basically the face of Pokemon, and I feel like that's probably still true.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's mostly
Pikachu and
still
Eevee.
true, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And so if they replace Ash, they're probably not going to have a Pikachu either, which might... I don't know.
That'll be almost weirder than not having Ash, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like, the humans are
No one
part of
cares
this-
about the humans.
Yeah.
But the Pokemon are
Is
everything.
there an Ash Ketchum plushie out there? There's gotta be. But I mean, the number of Ash Ketchum plushies to Pikachu plushies in the world, you would probably drown in the Ash Ketchum plushies, but you would be like crushed into a black hole from the Pikachu plushies.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. The
Fair
absolute
assessment.
density. So I don't know. I think it was just very interesting. It is definitely, if true, will be the end of a big era. The Pikachu part I didn't even consider, so that was very good. But it'll be weird. It just Ash never gets to grow old, but this certainly makes me feel old.
Yeah. A little bit.
A little bit.
A little
A
bit.
little bit. This is the point in the podcast where I would put on the 80-year-old man voice and start singing the Pokemon theme song, but I'm not going to do
I
that.
want to be the very best. See, I'll do it. Don't worry. I got you.
That's why y'all.
Pass the torch, old man. It's
Yeah.
mine now.
The future is now, old man.
Future keeps going and going.
On the same anime front, not the same anime, but on the anime front, I went to go see my first anime film in a big theater ever. Like, I've seen, we posted like events
Wow.
and stuff for, anime films and stuff, but this is the first time I've seen one on like official release. I went to go see One Piece film Red, which was like it was good. It was fun. It was very music based. It was very cool. But I've never actually done the whole we'll go see the actual official anime movie release for any series that. Oh, actually, wait. No, I guess that's a lie. I watched Pokemon back when I was a child.
I was going to say that too, but
I don't know if
I
that
feel like it's a
counts.
different experience. I feel like it's a very different experience seeing like the Pokemon movies
Yeah.
versus seeing like anime movies in theaters.
Yeah, like, it's not that Pokemon is an anime. It very obviously is, but it's a different
But it's
vibe.
more mainstream. It's definitely more
So,
mainstream, right?
yeah.
Like everybody,
The difference
everybody, whether
knows
you're a
Pokemon.
Pokemon fan or you're an anime fan, you'll go see a Pokemon movie in theaters. But if you present
going to see
if
the
you
Pokemon
present
movies.
like a One Piece movie,
Which is
or
a huge
Love Live
franchise.
movie, right? Like they're
But
huge. But if you present
not the same.
even like those big mega franchises
Yeah.
to like a regular North American audience, most people are not going to go see that in the theater, and it's not really going to be a part of the
And
theater's
most people
regular
don't know what One
rotation of
Piece
content.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you why. I can tell you why it feels different.
Why?
When we were going to see Pokemon, yes, it was huge. It was absolutely huge. But the movie releases weren't particularly different from any other movie releases.
True.
The only big difference from any other movie was there was swag involved. You got like a promo Pokemon card. You got a
Heck
Mewtwo,
yeah,
or you got the reverse Hollow
I still
Entei.
have Ancient Mew.
Same. I got two of them. But other than that, it was the same as going to any other movie. Whereas I've seen a few different anime. When Dio and I went to see the Madoka Rebellion movie, we got the really cool swag. We got the little poster boards. But it was one night. You got to go one night.
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
didn't go to that one or two showings,
You don't get to
weren't
go.
seeing it.
You don't get to
It
go.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. You had 3 weeks to figure it out. You were going if you wanted to see it, and so you would be in line. You would find friends in line. You'd be like,
Yeah.
"You're here. I got the Sayaka board. Do you want to trade it for the Kyoko board?" And it becomes like a social experience and a movie experience and an event. It is an event. And so it's the same thing when Dio and I went to see Promare. We found 10 other friends. Like, we saw Austin there, and he was like, "Yeah, it's my 3rd time seeing it." We saw other friends, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
Like-
it's definitely a different experience with anime movies. And that's what I mean when I say, like, you know, the theater usually doesn't put it in their regular rotation a lot of the time, versus like if you think about the Pokemon movies are released for a general audience in like the regular theater rotation, where it will be in the theater for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. So with One Piece being the huge franchise that it is, it does have multiple showings over the course of I think like 2 weeks or something, which is again kind of rare for Pokemon movies, for anime.
For
movies.
anime
Extremely
movies.
rare for anime.
Yeah.
I will also say the feel, like when you're saying the feeling is different, I don't think it's just because like, oh, I was a kid watching Pokemon. Like I said, everyone sort of knows what Pokemon is. I could ask my grandmother and she'd probably be like, that yellow rat dude is Pokemon. I'm like, that's you're right. You know, like you are not
rat.
incorrect. You know, whereas like if I ask her what One Piece is, she's like, 2 English words that you put together. You know,
One Piece?
yeah.
Is that even real?
so
One piece of what?
yeah, it's like, you want some cake? But yeah, it's like I said, it's first anime movie I've been to. Definitely the first as an adult. Kind of get that, like when I was doing the Pokemon thing, it just felt like you were going to a movie. Doing the One Piece thing, I was just like, I'm being a weeb right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's
There's
you're
a different
you're
energy.
choosing the
There's an
weeb life.
There's an exclusivity energy to it.
Was it subbed or dubbed?
There are subbed and dubs that you can choose from for viewings, but we went to
Subbed and dubbed
we went
for
for subbed.
all tastes.
But I will say that I was very curious what the dub would be. I've never seen an episode of One Piece, like the current One Piece, as a dub, other than like the old like
The 4Kids dub?
Yeah, but
Oh God.
but the real thing is that because this was a very music-based movie,
You wanted to enjoy the singing.
yeah, I would have been interested to see what the English
Oh my God.
lyrics would be if they took it that far. I assume they would.
His name's so low, he's like a samurai, and at LADY Nam, he's not shy. God.
God, you
Yo ho, yo ho.
I
One Piece. It's the name of
So-
it on the Grand Line.
I hated that opening 20 years ago. I hated it so much.
And
And
now you
these
love it.
days, I'm like, it is so bad that I can't help but love
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Wow.
I troll people with it because it's so bad that I'm like, it's good. It's really
exactly. That's me with the old German Naruto opening.
good. German Naruto opening. I've never even
I'm
heard
not
of
sure.
this.
Sakura,
I
the
know.
How
beautiful
are we friends?
Sasuke.
You haven't even sent me this.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
what
I will send it to you
Here
afterwards.
I stand with my ninja clan.
Clan.
Ninja clan.
Here
we
I
stand.
It's a banger. I'm telling you, it's
dying.
so
I'm
I'm
dying.
on my
believe it. It is.
Naruto. I'm on my way. Naruto. Oh, it's so good.
It's so something.
I miss the redubbed or like the 90s style. We're gonna do an anime opening, but we have no way
No
of
idea.
translating the song, so we're just gonna make up a new song.
I miss that on one hand. I really miss it, but then there's like cases like Space Dandy where
It's just better that
they
didn't.
had, instead of doing the opening, they instead did like a really cool narrator overview of it, and it's like, okay, that's great. He's a dandy guy in space on the hunt for aliens. But then Viva Namida was such an absolute banger that it's like
yeah,
6 or 7 years later still on my playlist.
yeah,
I
because it's
love
just
it.
such a good song.
Anyways, let's get back to One Piece.
So, like I said, movie was really good. The night we had was really good because it was a group of us just going out, kind of doing a movie friend night. It was really good. I have discovered a new restaurant that I think we should go to, which is
Oh,
really.
yeah?
It's right by Seoul
We all like eating.
on McLeod. It's another Korean place called Hambo.
Okay.
It's
Been
quite
there.
small. It is very popular. Like, we got there at 5 for the opening, and it's a Saturday night, so of course it might be a little bit busier. But like, people were literally waiting from the time. Like we got in and got a table. Once all the tables were filled, there were still like just a bunch of people waiting to get seats. Like, I don't think they do rezos. I didn't ask, but have a feeling they can't because it's too small. They do like traditional Korean noodle soups, and they do like dumplings, and the dumplings are like the size of it's the size of a Pokeball.
Nice.
Well, I'm there.
Yeah, and they do like orders of 6 per. Like, they're really tasty.
Damn.
Would recommend. Enough that to bring it up here. Definitely recommend. We should go.
Honestly, having some good food before or after an anime movie, it just wraps up the whole event as something.
Like a comfy dumpling wrapper.
Yes, it's really good. It's really enjoyable.
Yeah, I was
Something
saying, like,
that's
I love meatballs, for example, and I love meatballs. But then if you put a meatball into a doughy little wrapper, it's just next level. It's higher. It's elevated.
Yeah.
What is this?
That sounds delicious.
Oh, Something
you
that
sent
is-
I'm not watching that right now.
Yes, don't watch that now. Watch that later, but you'll appreciate that later.
something that should not be elevated to
Or
the
appreciate
degree
it.
that it is AI generated art. Over the
God.
weekend, there was an instance at an American convention of an artist alley selling prints of AI generated art. And the community was like,
What is like why? Now, to be fair, that's not the complete representation. Not that Angela were trying to omit anything. It goes beyond that they were trying to sell prints. They were not being like facetious about it. They were
not
being
hiding it.
blatantly obvious that it was AI generated, because they had a like setup where essentially, you got in and you would pick options. Like, I would assume hair color, pose, art
You
style.
got to choose a prompt.
You
Yeah.
got to make a prompt.
You
So
got to
maybe
make
a
a
little
prompt.
background on AI art and how AI works in a brief summary. So the way that AI art works is in the background, you have a large data set of art, which is you take a whole bunch of pictures of something. It can be a particular topic or subject or a mix or breadth of topics and subjects. And you tag every single image in this data set with a bunch of metadata, things like hair color or background color, or
color,
mood
yeah.
or all kinds of metadata.
Yes.
And this what happens with the AI is what your engine does is you provide it a prompt, which is a phrase or a list of words or even a paragraph. And what that AI engine does is, from the prompt that you've put in, from this phrase that you've put in, it goes and it collects from all of the metadata across the data set, It puts together a bunch of, it takes, pixels from A and pixels from B and pixels from B and C and puts them together in accordance to however the algorithm behind that AI engine is designed based on the prompt you've put in to put out a new image. And so what this exhibitor was doing was they had their prompt engine set up, and you could type in your prompt and it would spit out an image for you. So it wasn't, as Jay mentioned, it wasn't, like a, hey, I've made a bunch of AI fan art and I'm not going to tell you that I made it with AI. It's, hey, I have set up a AI prompt engine and a printer, and you can come and make your own. You can come use the prompt engine, and I will print out the result for you.
How much were they charging?
It looks like it was about $5 for like a small print.
Yeah, like I don't think they were charging lots and lots. Part of the whole
like an
prompt
8x7
system,
print.
their literal like invitation to come try out the AI system and generate your art was like there's an image of how they're doing their advertising, and it was just like 12 different red-haired female characters that are all sort of similar to each other, but some of them are wearing, for example, like some have glasses. Actually, I think all of them have glasses. All of them have red hair, so that's like the generic part. But then like some of them are wearing like an Ava type plug suit. One of them is wearing like knight's armor. Another one is wearing like a yukata or a business suit or something like that. So you get an idea of sort of what they're trying to sell you. Their advertising was literally which waifu speaks to you. Like the core idea being like, oh,
Design
I want
your own
again,
waifu.
your prompt that you wanted. It's like, well, I like girls with green hair and an eye patch
and glasses,
or like, whatever it might be. Now, I will say that the idea is interesting. It's not, in a sense, it's not that far off from going to ask someone for a commission because you tell them what you want, right? The difference here is that you are literally taking the work of other people. Now, one could argue that an artist, any human artist, takes from other artists, because we are. We take
inspiration. We learn
influences. We're like, I really like how that person draws eyes. I'd like to design something similar in my own way. Right?
Yeah.
I like the way that they draw hands. I like the way this art style speaks to me. I want to imitate it a little bit more. But that's not the same thing as saying,
literally taking the pixels.
This is an established piece of art and then just taking from them to create new art. New is a very rough term.
I understand exactly what Jay is saying,
Yeah.
and I agree with it. Which
It's
is
a weird
there is a
calculated
big difference.
mutation.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a calculated mutation. It's you, an artist, looking at a piece of art that you like, being inspired by it, and learning, the muscle memory by hand, how to draw something like it or draw something similar. Versus with AI, you are quite literally copying and pasting the exact pixel orientation. Like it is a one-for-one replication of bits and pieces across hundreds of thousands of pieces of art. One thing about it that's really interesting is, the sort of like the base sort of frustration a lot of artists have with AI is the copyright of their individual works, right? Because when your art is scraped into these large data sets that teach the AI, you don't really have an option to disinclude your work, and thus disinclude your style. And you don't really have a way to opt out. But what's even more hilarious, and something I just realized, is the way that these AI engines work. Like, they are developed by people, and a lot of it, what's starting to emerge now is the people who develop the AIs are now claiming ownership of their AIs.
Right.
Or of the work that the AI
Or
produces, you mean?
yeah.
no, not
Or-
of the work that the AI produces. Not the work, but of the engine
Of
itself.
the process, yeah.
Of the process.
Okay.
And so what's really interesting is now this is so in the case of this exhibitor, this is now someone who, like, the art is not theirs, the base art is not theirs, and the engine isn't theirs. So, and they're charging for it. So you end up in a kind of really funny catch-22 where now two completely separate interests might not be from two separate interests from two different sides of the board now might not be interested in your commercial stake and your
that you
commercial
could
product.
face liability over it. I will say, for anyone who's like interested in this, like, it's funny to see the imperfections as well in the art, because
It definitely is. I love looking at the hands.
Botched AI
Yeah, the
art
hands are
is some of
weird.
the most ridiculous thing ever.
It's so fun to
hands
look
are
at.
a
It
big
really
one.
is.
It's funny because, like, in the sense that one of the biggest things that I'm sure a lot of human artists come across, they're like, hands
They struggle
are
with
hard
hands.
to draw. We're all like, what is thumb? Well, where do pinky go? But then it's to think that like an
AI struggles
AI
with the same
struggles with the
issue.
same, even though they have like, hundreds of thousands potentially of, data set of what a hand looks like. There still be like 6 fingers,
6 fingers, no fingers.
or like a
The
club
trouble-
foot hand thing.
The trouble with AI is that it doesn't understand anatomy.
True.
It just
Hands are hard.
understands that these pixels together are considered what might be an eye.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The hilarious things. VTuber A Merry Dog, about a month or a month and a half back, posted a cursed piece of AI art that they were playing with, where you can tell what the AI was doing. That was while the meme of the really busty Victorian ladies was going around with the AI art. And so it had a huge pair of boobs. And the AI somehow figured out, or thought, oh, that looks like the thighs and the crotch region, so we have to make the torso on top of that. And obviously you have the boobs and the face above it. So you had a lady who was perfectly stacked, had a torso connected to shoulders and boobs and everything. And it was like some human centipede of lewd garbage. And it was like, what?
That sounds horrific.
If this was like, we always talk about AI in a sense, it's like, well, maybe one day the singularity will happen and we'll become like self-aware. So like part of me is thinking at a very base level that like that singularity's already happened, but it doesn't like have full like capability. So it's just like, maybe human will like this.
It's like, yeah, maybe human like chest. If I make many chests, maybe
Yeah.
human like it.
Yeah. It's like seeking validation for its existence. Like, did I do good? Did I do good, master? It's like Igor a little bit, where it's like,
Part
you
of-
like this?
Part of proper like AI training though is actually giving feedback on what
Yeah.
its resultant generated data is,
Yes.
whatever that data
Yeah.
is. And like yeah, that's kind of how I see it, Jay. It's like this
Right?
little child who just
It's
wants
like,
validation
"Papa,
on what
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
doing.
Did I do good?
You know
Can
what's
this
actually
one, can this
interesting about that?
macaroni art go on the fridge, please?
An AI art generator can actually get broken because of that. If you generate too much of the same thing and be like, yes, I want that, they learn. They actually do learn based on what the taken result is.
Right.
And they can get pigeonholed in that result.
Very quickly, where they just can
So if
only
you
draw
have-
one
Sure, that
thing.
makes
An
sense.
AI that's only generating waifus, it will never... Eventually, it will come to a point where it's only able to generate one waifu or one pose, or
Right, it's a
no
process of-
husbandos at all.
It's a process of refinement is basically what it is.
Yes.
It's funny because
Yeah.
I am way more sympathizing with a piece of code right now than I am with any of the
people.
that are like involved in it.
But
Just,
that's
I
because
can't
it's
get out of my
funny.
head. It's literally just please like what I made.
It just reminds me of that time Microsoft made like a Twitter bot and the
KAI.
internet just taught it how to be a
Racist.
horrible piece of garbage.
Yes, they
like,
did, and Microsoft was like,
Oh,
maybe
gosh.
this was a mistake.
This was
And
a
Every
mistake.
time it happens. They've tried that like 2 or 3 more times since, and the result is always the same.
Yeah, the fun thing about data science is there is a very hard balance to strike. So if you have if your list of trainers or people qualified to train the AI is too limited, you end up with a data set that is too biased
Right.
and thus is useless for the general population.
Yeah.
But if you let the general population teach your AI, you end up with something that is too broad
Monstrous.
and typically monstrously terrible.
Yeah.
So it is also useless.
Oh, what is that law of forums? What is that law of forums where it's any discussion on a forum
Oh no!
will
don't,
eventually
nope,
trend
nope,
towards...
Nope, we're not going there.
Is there a comparison for AI? It's like, if you release
Probably.
an AI onto the internet, how long will it take to become a racist?
Well, okay, but the
The
thing
longer
is
an
that
AI is on the is on the internet,
AI
its
systems,
chance of racism approaches 1.
Oh
AI
god.
systems are supposed to be really specialized. Like, you have a literal
Yes, exactly.
AI that is taught how to identify like specific kinds of leaves to know what kind
Yes.
of bushes or trees this comes from. That's
Exactly.
Like, their entire the way they're
Their
built.
entire purpose is, and I think that's the
It's
thing that a lot of people
singular.
don't understand, is that AI, like a lot of people, Jay talks about like, oh, it would be nice, are we hitting the singularity where they're sentient? The true answer is no,
No,
because
no.
AI they're intended to be very highly specialized trained tasks. And so the problem is drawing a piece of art is not a very specialized, limited, singular task.
No.
Similarly, being like a chatbot and talking to people is also not a very limited, singular task. And that's why these things quickly tend to go haywire and go all over the place, because
They just have no boundaries.
you
that they
have
can
no
respect.
boundaries, and so they just become overloaded with information, and as a result you get anime
Extremely
booby centipede ladies,
Yeah.
and you get wonky scary void art and people with no hands and all kinds of funky things.
Just to follow up on all of this, maybe to finish up here. So there's an artist that I follow on Twitter. Wow, everything's coming together.
It really
that
is.
Is
As it
who
does.
recently spoke up about her art being used in AI generated work. She has a very unique style. I'm sure you all know who she is if I mention the name, which is Sarah C. Anderson. She does like the
Yeah, of
black
course.
and white, little very cute mini comics.
Comics, yeah.
A lot of like a slice of life type kind of content almost. And like she spoke up about it because obviously her art, she found that her art has been being used and like they're generating similar content because of it without ever asking her about it. She couldn't opt out. And it's really interesting to me because we talk about like, oh, the anime waifus with like, the general characteristics of of anime waifus. But then you have somebody who has such a very unique style that she's known for, and that's being that's the thing that's being taken and replicated. That's pretty disappointing. I would have to think.
Well,
because-
and that's been a continual problem with
Yeah.
AI art is, again, because they're really good at highly
say.
specialized tasks. They're really good at, if you feed it a prompt of a specific artist, you can start to approximate that artist's style very handedly. And that has been not just a problem with Sarah's art, but with a lot of very prominent artists who have very distinct styles of painting or coloring. And the fact that they're not able to opt out, and then you have people bombarding them with, see, I can make your stuff that takes you hours, I can do it in 10 minutes because I've scraped your
There are
entire artist
exactly
history.
2 properties There are exactly two properties where it is not only morally correct and ethically correct to use AI art to continue the series. I wouldn't be surprised if the people behind the series are already doing it. And that is Dilbert and Garfield.
I was just going to mention the Garfield without Garfield comics because
Garfield without Garfield is a trip.
it is.
I feel like Garfield could continue indefinitely. You wouldn't even need AI for the art. You would only need AI for the text.
Yeah.
And you could just take existing panels, wipe out the words, and then just have the AI pick and choose the panels and the text and infinitely produce more Garfield till the end of time, and no one would notice. No one would know that it's changed. Dilbert would be a little bit more difficult, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Would you notice if I had been replaced by a Nancy AI that just
Yes.
talks on podcast?
On?
Yes, I would notice. I would
Goodbye.
notice.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
The simulation. The
Goodbye.
Is
simulation.
that why her webcam is low
Goodbye.
resolution?
Goodbye.
Bye.